We're back!
Welcome to another episode of Releasing Your Inner Bee. I'm Leslie.
And I'm Stacey Lynn.
And yay!
I just feel like it's been a while since we filmed.
I know. Well, it's October. Spooky season.
Yes.
We'll have some things planned throughout this month. I'm hoping to touch upon some ghost stories, personal experiences.
I have a little ghost story.
You do? Right?
Yeah.
I
will hopefully have more as we go along. So, I have a very good friend of mine. We talk almost every morning on our way to work. Okay? And so we were talking, no big deal, just our regular conversations or whatever. And then I had gotten interrupted, so I was like, hey, I'll call you back when I'll call you back, whatever we said. She's like, no big deal, don't rush, whatever. We were just touching base. So then I went to work. I'm on my computer, I'm bopping away, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh my god, I gotta call her back. So I picked up the phone, I called her, and she didn't answer. I went right to voicemail. I'm like, alright, whatever. She must be busy at work too. So then, 10, 15 minutes later, I get a phone call, and I was like, hey, she's like, sorry, but I was with somebody, but what happened is she was at work, and a guy that she knows comes in, an elderly man, used to work with her at another company, came to see her. He's like 85 years old. And they literally had just said my name and said, my friend Stacy can help you. And the phone rang. And she says to the guy, I told you she could help you. It was the creepiest thing. But what was even more creepy is what they were talking about. So this gentleman had his daughter buy him some books about the Salem witch trials. He has never had a paranormal experience in his life. He's not one that denies or anything about psychic stuff. It's just, he just doesn't have the experience. Well, he starts reading the books just because he's interested. Everybody loves the Salem witch trials. I mean, that's interesting history. Well, I guess ever since he's had that, he's had non-stop ghostly experiences. It was so bad that he took the books and put them in his back shed, and when he left the shed, he was walking out, he literally tripped and fell, and there was nothing. And all he remembers thinking is, oh my god, she pushed me. So I guess they're going to contact me. It's up to him whether he contacts me or not. He'll be contacting me to find out what's going on in his house, and if we can help him in any way.
Ooh, can I be a
Absolutely. So more to come on that as we go along. If he calls, great, we'll have a story to talk about. But if not, hopefully he figures it out. But yeah, he really believes now that it is something up where it's a haunted object, these books from Salem.
Well, that is the number one spooky wooky spot, especially in Halloween. Yeah. A lot of people associate Salem with the movie Hocus Pocus.
Yeah, of course.
Of course, and the Hocus Pocus 2, that was a big one as well. But, I mean, the history goes back to the witch trials. And even so, they have found out that they weren't actually witches. It was just bored women. And during that time, you really have to think about what the women were doing, or the young girls, I should say. Because during the time of 14 to 18, they had to stay inside. That was their job. So if you ask me, I probably would have done something similar just to entertain myself.
Absolutely.
I imagine you would have done too. I mean, you start getting all this attention and things start happening. But even so, their nanny, or one of the girls' nanny, did come over on the slave ship.
Yeah.
So she did know voodoo. That was it.
Yeah.
So she did practice that. So they say that maybe their spirits were then protected by her, and then they can be reincarnated or reappear throughout Salem.
That's cool. That's cool. I love the witch stories. Have I ever talked to you about why they think witches fly on brooms?
No.
Okay. We haven't talked about that this year?
No,
okay.
We have not.
So what happened, I'm going to date it back to 1600s. And why people started saying that witches flew on brooms is because obviously the witch hunt's been around for a very long time, going back. When I did a little research on it, I want to say it was around the 1600s is the story I'm going to tell you. So what was happening is people were baking their own bread, right? Well, what happens to rye bread if you bake it and then let it mold is the mold that appears on the top of the loaf, like whatever molds, on the crust or whatever of the rye bread. It actually is a hallucinogenic if you ingest it. If you ingest it, it's not a good, like it's bad. So I think they found that out where people were like having hallucination type things, whatever, they researched it, come back to this rye bread. Well, they also realized that if you can absorb it into your system in a smaller dose, it gives you the euphoric feeling. Like, you're not going to go out and exactly hallucinate, but you're high, right? So what they would do is they need to put it in delicate areas of their bodies. So what they would do is they would take the broomstick and dip it in like wax or whatever, and then cover it in a salve made from the stuff on the rye bread. And then they would actually put it in delicate areas of their life, of their body, I mean, and what would happen is they would get that euphoric or slightly hallucinogenic effects from the moldy rye bread. So what happened is that's where they started saying, because it was the herbalists that did it, and then they started associating witches with herbalists, and they all had brooms that they flew high on, but it was high as in drunk. Does that make sense?
Yes, rather
Fun
than
facts.
in the sky.
And believe me, don't write it down. I'm not the encyclopedia, and I could have got it slightly wrong, but this is the research that I had done when I was researching just witches over the years, especially on Halloween, you talk about witches. But I was blown away by the fact that that's how the wise tale came of witches fly high on brooms. And I was blown away by that fact. I was like, that's kind of cool. It's horrible, but kind of cool. So the first thing they did when, a lot of, again, the herbalist type of people were the ones they went after, they would always check the brooms. And if the brooms had that salve on it, they were witches.
Wow.
Even though they weren't.
No, yeah.
But yeah. No
Wow.
fun facts.
Well,
Good times.
makes you think with the interpretation of how we view words. I mean, high, and now it's like high,
Fly high, right, yep.
But they meant hallucinogenics.
Yep, and then associating the brooms, and that they sit on the brooms, which technically they did sit on the broom in an inappropriate way because they used it as their delicate areas. And
That was very frowned upon.
so anyway, fun facts.
Women and those intimate areas was frowned upon during that time because they never thought that women had interesting thoughts.
Yeah.
Only men did. Women were dainty.
Or I've read stuff too where if women did have those thoughts, they had wandering uteruses or something, and then the only way to really get them to stop is for the men to like make them orgasm or something like that. Does that? And it was like hysterical or something.
Uterus,
yeah,
yeah.
hysterical uterus,
Yes.
which it sounds freaking horrible.
No, it does.
Ugh.
No, that is true. And then also associating that with witches. So
We love our side conversations, how we got to here, but
well, speaking of that, and then how we can loop it back to witches, is that whomever had impure thoughts like that, it was a bad entity that was making them think those
yes, that's right.
things. So then from there as well, then they might have been a witch if they were thinking those things, because then they were associated with a bad entity.
Yep. That's cool.
So
Interesting facts of fun for Halloween. This wasn't supposed to be the topic today, but we just kind of go off because that's what this is about.
I like that. Something that I have been thinking of is I was just scrolling through Facebook and something popped up and said there's a difference between medium and psychic.
Yeah.
There is?
I look at it as something different than being, well, I'm going off. Okay.
No, go ahead. I'm actually curious.
I have heard people use the word medium as somebody who speaks to passed over loved ones or ghosts. Okay. I've heard someone say a psychic is somebody that can predict the future. But in my opinion of the whole thing is a medium, meaning whether you're a medium, so you're in between spirit world or ghosts, whatever, it's not living, in between the unseen world with the seen world. So you're a medium, whether you're doing Reiki and you're pulling energy from the universe to pass through you as a median or a medium to the person. You're using the tarot cards in between the person you're giving the messages to and the energy of the cards. Do you see what I mean? Like, I think of a medium as a medium. But typically, if you say you're a medium, they believe that you can talk to past over loved ones. That's what people do. And if you're a psychic, you can predict futures. But if you're an intuitive, you're just somebody who's naturally in touch with the world.
So what would you categorize yourself?
I'm an intuitive.
You're an intuitive.
Yep.
And that is just having those tools and having those abilities.
Yep. I think I'm an intuitive that is able to be a medium for people when I need to be. But I don't like to put out there that I do mediumship. It's out there, like people know I do mediumship. But I like to think of it as I'm just very intuitive, and I think every single person has the ability within them if they choose to touch upon it. I think it's something that we lost in the world as the world has advanced with technology. And the fact that this physical world is so much more important than anything else, that we've lost touch with the universe around us. So, like, I know growing up, we grew up on the boats. Like, my grandfather was a lobsterman. My dad was, like, we grew up on lobster boats. And my grandfather knew just from the way his body felt what the weather's going to be like. He knew he would be able to sense the world around him and know things that weren't physically there by how he felt. But to them, it was no big deal. You know, my knee hurts. It's definitely going to rain tomorrow. Like, that stuff existed. And that to me is intuitive. But anyway, I'm going on. See how I do a tangent?
Well, I was just curious because I didn't know that there was a difference between the two.
I don't think there really is a difference.
Okay.
Personally, I think people just grab the words and run with it. Do you know what I mean? A medium's a medium. We're mediums.
Yes, and I am very careful using the word psychic because, like you said, a lot of people are like, oh, well, you can predict the lottery numbers. It's like, that's not that. Or you can predict the weather.
Right.
No, it doesn't work like that. I can receive messages from my guardians. I can receive messages from the other side.
Yep.
I can receive dreams. I've received a lot of dreams and then trying to interpret them.
Yeah.
So
You're just, and then I think when you take that intuition for yourself, like you interpret your dreams or you do meditation and you get guidance and all that stuff, right? Once you now do that for somebody else, to me, you then become the median, which is medium.
yeah.
You're the in-between. That's the way I look at it, but the way the world has just taken it, and horror movies and Bad Mojo, and you know what I mean.
Oh, exactly. And
But I don't believe in predicting futures.
And see, that's the Hollywood way of psychic and the crystal balls. They're mishmashing it.
Yep.
And with the mediums, and if you do use the term psychic, people think that you can walk into the room and say, "Oh, there's that, there's that, there's that, there's that."
No.
It doesn't work that way.
No, you're able to pick up the energies. So, if we believe that when we die, our soul always carries on. That's what most people believe. Most people do believe that. I've spoken to that. When your physical body dies, your spirit continues. That's why they even weigh the physical body. What is it, 0.4 ounces or 4 ounces or something? Your body actually weighs less. And I apologize, I don't know if it's 0.4 or 4 ounces. It's energy. So if you can walk into a room and be able to feel the tension in a room, if you're able to walk up to somebody you love without even seeing them or looking at them in the face and you know something's wrong, of course we can read energy. So if our spirits carry on, then how can people not believe that people who naturally are able to interpret the energy around them, be able to communicate with their passed over loved one based upon the energy that passed over loved one's giving? Because that's all I do. I tell everybody, you can ask me questions, we can call in your loved one, but I'm telling you, I read energy. That's what I do. I read energy.
Exactly, and that's something that we let people know ahead of time, because it's not like we can call somebody. It depends on the energy that you are open to.
Yep.
And what is surrounding you.
Absolutely.
That is the most important part, and that's what I have to explain to people when I'm reading tarot or pendulums or lithomancy, that it's the energy that is surrounding them. And it's hard because they might be hoping to talk to somebody that's not quite there yet.
Right, they may not be wanting to come through or able to come through. And I think that some people who practice mediumship, like the traditional world of mediumship, you go to this person to connect with a passed over loved one, plain and simple. Done. I think they practice so much on that one skill that they get really good at reading the energy of the passed over loved one. You know, somebody like me, I personally do so much life coaching to help other people read and feel the energy of the world around them that I don't focus so much on just mediumship, that I don't think my skill level is as strong as somebody who only does mediumship, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So, and then I'm going to step backwards a little bit when I said I don't predict futures. I do not predict futures. I do not believe anyone can predict a future because I think you have free will. However, I think when there's something very important that the person, I'm sorry, I touched my thing.
Yeah.
I do have had incidences where it's overwhelming that I have to tell somebody that something that could possibly happen in the future, but it's going to be overwhelming for me. Do you know what I mean? And I can read energy and says, based upon where your energy is, this is where you're headed. So I think that Spirit will give us guidance about things that could happen, knowing you got free will. If you don't like the outcome, adjust your life today to try to change your path in some way.
And I believe in that wholeheartedly. Yeah. That Spirit does try to contact you, or does try to slip you little messages here and there on what could possibly happen. And if you don't listen, then it'll run its course, and whatever that they were telling you happens.
Right, yeah. And this is the perfect time of year to actually get some of that stronger advice and speak to Spirit and feel and hear and see the energy of the universe, or what your passed over loved one or your spirit guide's trying to tell you. Because as we all know, Halloween is a time where the veil is the thinnest between us.
Why is that? Why do they say that the veil is the thinnest during this time?
I believe it has to do with the way our energy is and the way the seasons go. This is the time, if you think about it, the energy of the world, especially in this area, this is where we're now going into that space where things are dying off, they're retreating down. Like, think of a tree. Can I use a tree as an example? You have a tree, it's flourishing, it's all about what's all around them, and then all of a sudden now it's shrinking into itself. It's pushing everything down into its roots. It's letting its leaves fall off to protect itself. I think this is the time of the year where we're all starting to go into hibernation, and our energies maybe starting to go lower, which ultimately it's when the energies kind of match up with the other side, if that makes sense. So think of us like, all right, we're all going in. And then the other side's like, that's right, come down and see us. Even though it's not down,
no,
but it's just the way the energy of the universe and everything kind of comes down. I think of, like, if you think of, so here we are, I think of fall, we're down like this, and then winter, we're down under the ground, and then here comes spring, and we come back up. Like, I think of it as, like, it's a circular motion, but it's higher energy down to lower energy. And I just think, or we'll say calming energy, when we start to go down and hibernate, we bring ourselves down. When you want to connect to the other side or feel the energies, you need to silence yourself. Bring yourself lower to ultimately be able to pick up that other energy. And I think it's just a time where we all hit at the certain spot, and the veil is thinner. That's why so many people have experiences around this time. You know what I mean? They see, sense, feel. The shadow people are different. I'm already picking it up. I'm driving down the road, and I think somebody's walking down the side of the road, but then you get closer and nobody's there.
Yep.
All that stuff starts popping up because the veil's thinning.
Yes.
So, but anyway. Again, this is my interpretation. It's nothing I studied.
But it's things that you feel around.
Absolutely, yeah.
People always wonder, why do they call it a thinning veil? Well,
yeah,
that's why.
And it's a thinning veil, and it's also time for you to start looking at your shadow work. So it's a good time where you're starting to dive down. It's to, like, think of that hibernating animal. They got to gather everything they need, and then during these winter months is a great time for everyone to work on themselves. Start to really figure out what it is you want to manifest in your life. This is where the shadow work's done. You know, what are you hiding that you don't want other people to see? What are you ashamed of that you don't want to tell other people? Those are the things that you don't want light to be shined on. Those are the things you got to start working on, and winter months is the best time to do it.
And then you start to shine the light during the spring.
Yep, and then you plant your seeds, you get everything ready, and then come spring, you hope that all your work during the winter then births out what it is you were trying to make.
All this, it all makes sense. It
Shadow
absolutely
work
does.
is definitely huge. I'm a shadow. That's basically what I do with the coaching. Is I'm shining light on people's shadows. I'm making them take ownership of the rules they're living their lives by that no longer serve them. Then why the hell are you living your life by these rules that don't serve you? That's what shadow work is. So anyway, I'll shut up.
So, is there anything that you wanted to touch upon today?
No, I think that's it. I think
Oh, yeah.
in my head I had like a whole other subject, but then we just started in, and that's what it is. So happy Halloween. Happy harvesty time.
Not quite there yet.
Yeah, we're not quite Halloween yet, but happy Halloween month.
Happy October. This is a great way to just jump into things, and next week we'll have another spooky story.
Yeah.
We can probably start off with another one of these.
Oh, I've got tons of scary stories. It's nuts. I just gotta remember what I've said already.
Well, I'll remember and keep track. So
Perfect.
Tune in next week, and you'll be able to hear another spooky story, and then whatever spirit has guided us to talk about. I mean, today was just mostly Halloween things and what's happening around you, so then you can now pick up the energy and read for yourself.
Perfect. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
This has been a presentation by Leslie Albano and Stacy Lynn Shepard. Like, follow, and subscribe on our YouTube channel, The Underground Channel. This has been sponsored by Underground Minerals and more. Check out the website at undergroundminerals.com. Come get stoned with us.